Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today for the third and final webinar of the Growing the Ag Workforce series. My name is Meg McCosker and I'm the Ag Workforce Officer for Central Highlands and Central West Queensland, and I form part of the Queensland Agriculture Workforce Network. I would like to take the time to acknowledge QAWN as our funding partner for the Growing the Ag Workforce webinar and podcast series. QAWN is a government-funded, industry-delivered initiative that supports agribusinesses to attract, train and retain workers. I just want to run over a few quick housekeeping rules, even though I'm sure we'll heard them many times during this series. Today's webinar is going to be recorded and we'll share the link with you all over the coming days. We welcome you to revisit the content yourself or share with your colleagues. We want you to take away as much as possible from today's webinar and do invite your questions and comments throughout. Can I please ask that all participants keep yourselves on mute when Kate is presenting, and if you'd like to speak during the allocated question time, just utilise the raise hand function and either myself or Kate will invite you to speak. We invite you all to have your videos on, which you all do, so fantastic, as it's always nice for presenters to see faces. If you have any technical difficulties, please let me know either via the chat or emailing me at meg@churrup.org.au and I'll do my best to help resolve. And finally, if you do have any questions throughout that you don't want to forget, please pop them in the chat function and I'll monitor and pose those questions to Kate when suitable or in the allocated question time. So before I hand it over to Kate to get the participation rolling, can I ask that you pop into the chat where you're dialing in from and what you're hoping to learn in today's webinar about workplace health and safety. While those come in, Kate, I will introduce you as our presenter for today. So Kate Crowe from CHRRUP is our Business Development Manager. So over to you, Kate, to introduce yourself further and lead today's discussions.
Thanks, Meg, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today for the third webinar of the Growing the Ag Workforce series. I'm Kate Crowe, and I'm the Business Development Manager at CHRRUP. So CHRRUP's a small team made up of dedicated individuals who have a passion for ag, and we want to see the industry thrive. With our passion for people and agriculture, we understand how hard it is to run an agricultural business with climate, geographic, staffing and financial pressures, just some of the hurdles faced. So today, I'm hoping to shed some light on workplace health and safety on farm. We'll cover off on the obligations of both employers and employees, risk management techniques, the importance of safety culture, the importance of on-farm training, and how competencies fit into your business. So let's get started. Just before we jump into the content, I'd love to ask a quick question of you all. So do you have a safety management system? There's no right or wrong answer, just wanting to see what sort of audience we have today. Meg, if you could make that one live, that would be awesome.
Should be live now, I'm hoping.
I can't see Teams, so if you just want to give me a yell, Meg, if anything pops up.
Of course, so far we've got yes, but it's not as comprehensive as we'd like. No, but I would like to, and I want to fulfill my duty of care. And another one in the yes, but not as comprehensive as we'd like.
Thanks, Meg. Super interesting. Hopefully today we can expand on your understanding of workplace health and safety on farm. So the stats are pretty scary. Agriculture in Queensland has the highest industry fatality rate at 12.1% per 100,000 workers. So it's almost double that of the next highest industry, which is manufacturing. We all know ag is a tough industry. The variation in the tasks and the combination of hazards makes it one of the most dangerous industries to work in. Last year, Queensland had the highest rate of farm fatalities. So we had 19 accidents and 86 industries. What can we do to change this? So up until 2011, agriculture was exempt from the Workplace Health and Safety Act. Workplace Health and Safety Queensland ruled in 2011 that agricultural organisations also had to satisfy their obligations under the Act, given that they too operate a business, they have employees and they have a significant amount of risks. So agriculture now follows the same legislation as every other industry in Australia, so that that makes up the Workplace Health and Safety Act of 2011, the Workplace Health and Safety Regulations, the Australian Standards and the Codes of Practice, which apply to both physical and mental health, which is really important to understand when you're constructing a workplace health and safety system. So within this, let's take a key look at the obligations that apply to you under the Workplace Health and Safety Act of 2011. Duties of a person conducting a business or undertaking. So PCBUs have a duty, so far as reasonably practical, to ensure the health and safety of workers and others in the conducting of their business. This includes providing and maintaining a safe work environment, the safe use, handling and storage of plant, structures and substances. So it includes machinery, equipment, chemicals. Having safe systems of work, providing adequate facilities for the welfare of workers, so including access to these and maintaining any accommodation provided. Providing information, training, instruction or supervision that is necessary to protect all employees from risks. So we'll touch on this a little bit later, how important training and competencies are on farm. To monitor employees' health and safety for the purpose of preventing illness or injury. Consulting with their workers, so this involves involving them in decisions that are made on farm and taking on any feedback that they may give you. Displaying your workplace health and safety policy in your workplace, so that could be signs, symbols, and making it accessible to all employees. So there's a fair bit in there that applies to PCBUs, but these are all ticked off if you're completing a safe station or if you do have a detailed workplace health and safety system. So we'll run into what actually applies to workers and employees. So while at work, a worker must take reasonable care for his or her own health and safety. They must take reasonable care that his or her acts or omissions do not adversely affect the health and safety of others. They must comply so far as the worker is reasonably able with any reasonable instructions that is given by the PCBU. And they must cooperate with any reasonable policy or procedure relating to health or safety at the workplace that has been notified to the workers. So that includes all your policies and procedures. We'll quickly run into some of the risks that you may face, financial risks and people risk if you don't comply with the Workplace Health and Safety Act. So there's 4 major categories of offences for failing to comply with either the Workplace Health and Safety Act or the Electrical Safety Act. So that depends on the degree of seriousness or the liability involved. So the biggest one is industrial manslaughter. So the highest penalty where a PCBU or a senior officer negligently causes death of a worker. So maximum penalty of up to 20 years imprisonment for an individual or up to $10 million for a body corporate. So pretty substantial risks, and it comes back to what level of risk you're willing to take on as a business operator. The next highest penalty is for recklessness conduct, risking death or serious injury. So for a corporation is up to 3 million, an individual PCBU or an officer is up to 600,000 or 5 years jail, and an individual such as a worker up to 300,000 or 5 years jail. So some pretty serious risks on both the people front and the financial front if you don't comply with the Workplace Health and Safety Act. 2 of the smaller ones are Category 2, failure to comply with the health and safety duty or electrical safety duty that exposes the person to the risk of death, serious injury or an illness. For a corporation, up to 5.5 million. For an individual, up to 300,000 as a PCBU, or an individual as a worker, up to 150,000. And then failure to comply with health and safety or electrical duty for a corporation, up to 500,000, an individual up to 100,000, an individual as a worker up to 50,000. So again, comes back to a significant amount of risk if something was to happen on your farm and you did not have any policies or procedures in place. So how do we actually manage these risks on farm? We'll take a look at the steps you can take to manage the risks on farm and things you can implement to reduce this level of risk that you're facing. Workplace health and safety all comes down to managing risk. It doesn't need to be hard or complicated. It comes down to identifying the hazards, assessing the risks, controlling the risks, reviewing your control measures, and then repeating the process. So it's not a set and forget system, something that needs to be continually improved in your business and something that should be a priority to protect your people and yourself financially. So we'll take a look at the different levels of risks. The risk matrix tool is a tool to evaluate risks. It compares the potential consequence with the likelihood of an event occurring. So it's really important to understand the risk matrix, whether it's for tasks that happen on a day in, day out basis or something that happens once a year or once every 6 months. The risk matrix is supported by the hierarchy of controls, which is used to minimize the level of the risk and the potential consequences. So we'll touch on that really soon, and we might come back and have a quick look at this level of risk. The hierarchy of controls. So the hierarchy of controls is a tool to minimize risks in the workplace. You can use this to consider things like, is this equipment fit for purpose? Is it safe to use? Can another vehicle or piece of equipment be used to complete the tasks? What physical tools can I utilize to isolate the hazards that this might cause? What knowledge or training do my employees need to have about the risk or the tool? Is suitable PPE provided? So running down this hierarchy of controls, some suggestions for elimination might be disposing of tools or equipment or machinery that's not suitable for tasks. Substitution is using an alternative, such as electric motors rather than diesel motors, water-based paints instead of solvent-based paints. Engineering is isolating the hazards, so guards on things having suitable enclosures, suitable ventilation, chemicals. Administrative controls is changing the way we work, so job rotations, preventative maintenance, restricting a work hour area, having set work hours, and having a safety culture is really important in that one. PPE, we all know what that is, so safety glasses, gloves, feet protection. And the hierarchy of controls is really, really important to understand. There's a little imaginary line that goes above the administrative controls. So anything below the line, administrative controls and PPE, does not change where you fall on the risk matrix. You sit in the same sort of colour. And then when you utilise the engineering controls, substitution and elimination, you start to change colours on the risk matrix. So you could go from a very high to a high to a medium. So it's really removing the person from the risk and trying to have a better outcome for what might happen. So we might run across just a few examples of ways that you can utilise a hierarchy of controls. So to take you right back out of ag, we'll have a quick look at a skydiving example. So elimination is to not skydive, don't jump out of a plane. Simple. Substitution could be doing indoor skydiving in one of the rings. You get the same thrill, feel like you're flying in the air. And engineering controls. So we've got there's certain planes designed for skydiving. You have a parachute. It's very thought out. Administrative controls. So that comes back to training. You have a run through before you jump out of the plane. You know what to do while you're falling, and you're strapped to someone that's experienced. PPE comes right down to the goggles and the closed-in shoes that aren't really going to help you when you're jumping out of a plane without any of the other factors. So. And then to move into something a little bit more ag related. So an example could be mustering on quad bikes. Elimination would be not completing the task. Substitution, using a four-wheeler or a horse, whatever vehicle or equipment is fit for the purpose, what can we do to minimise the risk or the likelihood of a rollover on a quad bike happening? An engineering control is a roll bar, so that physically removes the person from the hazard and puts in a barrier to stop the risk from occurring. Administrative controls is training, knowledge about the property, the stock handling, knowing where they are. PPE comes down to a helmet, glasses, sunnies, whatever's fit for purpose in that activity. So you can see how the hierarchy of controls are really, really important when we're looking at the level of risk that's faced on farm. So you need to utilize these two tools together to start moving yourself across the risk matrix and improving where you might sit with the potential consequence and the likelihood. So what actually is a safety management system? A safety management system is a set of policies, procedures and plans to manage health and safety in the workplace. It's a system-based approach, so it ensures continuous improvement and consideration is given to farm safety. It's a platform to make considered and informed decisions. So the information comes back to you, you can improve on things, change things. Use that information to make better decisions and enhance your business. It demonstrates a due diligence to protect your employees, and it improves your safety culture. So we'll run into the safety culture now. Culture is one word, but it has so many elements. Some of these are commitment, purpose, opportunity, success, communication, appreciation, well-being, and leadership. So we've heard from both Jay and Sally, sorry, that how important culture is in retaining staff, attracting staff, and how important it is to run a productive business. So just quickly, I really wanted to ask, what do you think is your biggest driver for your work, for your culture in your business? So out of these, if you could select one, Meg, if you could make that poll live, that would be awesome.
Should be live now. And you should be able to submit multiple votes if you would like to. So we've got a few coming through at the moment. Communication is leading with 3 votes currently. Commitment, purpose, appreciation, well-being, and leadership is another big one as well. So communication and leadership seem to be the biggest drivers.
Awesome. And that really feeds straight back into what workplace health and safety is, that you're communicating expectations and how things are done around here. So that's awesome to see that it has a direct impact on so many people. So this one is just a really, really good quote that I heard the other day. So culture is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on a Sunday night. So if you're not looking after your staff, they're not going to want to work for you. And if they're not protected and felt safe at work, they're obviously going to feel pretty nervous about going to work on a Monday morning. So that's just a little good one to remind you how important it is and how important it is to look after your staff. How does a good safety culture improve your business? So it, as I said, retains good employees and attracts quality employees, provides a safe workplace for all employees and family members. It enhances productivity, ensures everyone is on the same page, gives you time back into your business, and it sets the standards for the business. So if you've got policies and procedures that clearly state what needs to happen on farm and how things need to be done, you're really setting the standard and ensuring that the bar is met with your staff to ensure things are done productively and efficiently. And what does it take to change a workplace culture? So this can be a bit of a tricky one if you're in a negative spot and you're wanting to work on both your safety culture and just your internal culture of a business. So it takes having clear systems of work with common goals like keeping everyone safe and getting the job done. So everyone really needs to be on the same page, and having those clear systems of work, such as policies and procedures, really ensure that people know what they're doing, they know what their jobs are, and they know how to get them done. So, and symbols such as signage, little reminders that keep everyone on track and working together, whether that's toolbox meetings, barbecue breakfasts, displaying your workplace health and safety policy in your workplace, sign reminders, a little sign in the workshop, in the in the office, wherever you need it to be, to just ensure everyone's constantly reminded how important your culture is to you, as well as behaviours. So leading by example and keeping everyone accountable is huge for property owners, business owners. So you need to really set the standard for your staff and ensure that they are following in your footsteps, that you're doing the right things, and that they can entrust in you, and they can also do the right things. So I'll move into the behaviours. Behaviours leads into training on farm. And how to ensure people are adequately trained. So employers have a responsibility to provide information, training, instruction, or supervision that is necessary to protect all persons from risks. Training also shows an ongoing commitment to your staff and their development. It's easier to retain good staff if they're being treated right and shown that they're worth the training and the education. And it's important to have staff have the necessary training to be competent in high risk tasks before being allowed to complete a job. So we'll touch on the competencies very soon, but that's a huge part in the training space. So some essential training on farm. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but a person conducting a business or undertaking must ensure that there's a provision to first aid equipment, that each worker at the workplace has access to the equipment, access to facilities for administrating first aid, and an adequate number of workers that are trained to administer first aid. All workers have access to an adequate number of people who have been trained to administer first aid. So you can refer to the first aid in the workplace code of practice to determine the requirements for your business. So that steps out the minimum requirements, the numbers of people that must be trained, and the first aid facilities that you must have. But that's pretty crucial, a pretty crucial part of the training space on workplace health and safety on farm. Really important if there's an accident to happen and people do not have access to first aid or suitable first aid from someone. So would recommend looking into that and jumping into the first aid in the workplace code of practice to determine what your requirements actually are.
Hey, when you talk about the provision of first aid equipment, does that code of practice also outline what is deemed like the minimum and maximum of what equipment is required to be?
Yeah, the first aid
compliant
and such, Meg.
Yes.
Yeah. So steps out it's a pretty detailed document and steps out what is actually necessary on farm and in the workplace. So access to the first aid requirements, auditing them, etc. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome tool to jump in and take a look at, to work out how many people you need, what sort of equipment you need, and the access to it. So
awesome. We'll send that out with the meeting notes and the meeting recording, a link to that. It'd be great.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at competencies. So what actually is competent? It can be such a grey area on farm. A competent person is defined as a person who is appointed or designated by the employer to perform specific duties based on knowledge, training, and experience. So competence is a measure of both proven skills and proven knowledge. And it's really important that the correct people deem staff competent. So if you were to have an accident and be investigated, regulators would come out and they'd want to know who deemed that person competent, why they were deemed competent, what qualifications and experience they had to be deemed competent. So competencies comes back to mitigating the risk in the administrative controls. Do the staff know what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it? It's pretty crucial in having a suitable workplace health and safety system, and before ticking staff off to do the high risk tasks, mustering, riding motorbikes, driving vehicles. So in a well detailed and documented workplace health and safety system, you should have an area that is dedicated to ensuring competencies on farm. And how do you actually check if someone's competent? So some examples of checking employees' competency are knowing what the tool, the equipment, the machinery, or the vehicle is designed to do and what it's not designed to do, how to prepare the tool, equipment, machinery, or vehicle for use, including any pre-start checks, how to correctly operate the tool, equipment, machinery, or vehicle, how to store that piece of equipment or tool, and how to correctly change parts of the tool or equipment or machine. So there are a couple of key ones that we do run over when you're looking at competencies. Really important to ensure they know from where to go, how to manage the tool or the machinery, what to do if there is an accident, how to turn it off, how to do emergency shutdowns, things like that. This should be another aspect of your detailed safety management system. So having a documented policy or procedure that's dedicated to how you deem someone competent shows that you've undertaken the necessary steps to ensure someone is competent to complete the task. And that comes back to your risk mitigation and ensuring the suitable person can complete the task.
We've just had a comment come through really quickly, sorry, Kate, that in the education sector, they are now requiring staff, assistants and teachers to have explicit vet unit of competency for any high risk activity / equipment. Is that the case in the ag sector? Do you need, as a producer, a vet qualification, things like that to deem competent? Yeah.
Not necessarily. It comes down to the task that you're deeming someone competent on. You obviously wouldn't deem someone competent on something that you aren't competent in. So it comes back to the knowledge, the experience, the skills of the person who is ticking the boxes and saying they know how to do that. Some things are a little bit more high tech on the chemical front, like chemical certificates should be undertaken, courses should be undertaken on that front by people deeming staff competent, but it's not necessary to have that vet qualification to be deeming staff competent in the farm things. It would just be unrealistic, and you just have to keep in mind what we were trying to work towards is it's not a fully compliant that you're ticking every box on the workplace health and safety radar. That you're trying to step your way to being compliant. It's an ongoing process. Compliance in ag is so tough, really hard to achieve because there's so many risks and so many potentials for things to go wrong. So it's about taking the steps to improve what you've got and to build a system up. But having something is better than having nothing. But yeah, at this stage, it's not a requirement to have those sorts of certificates. Because it would just be impractical.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
No worries. So how can you actually implement a safety management system? So online templates. So there's lots of tools that you can purchase templates or free downloads. That's an extremely time-consuming task to sit down and from where to go, step out every single risk on farm and mitigate that with a policy or procedure. But the options there, you can start documenting your processes. So how are things done on your property? Why are things done the way they're done? How's the safe way of doing things? You might know in your head how things work, but that doesn't stack up if something is to happen and you do need to protect yourself. So having things documented is crucial, ensuring things are written down, the steps for completing tasks. You can start keeping records, so machinery and vehicle maintenance, if something was to break down and an accident was caused from that, do you have the necessary records that you need? So when was a vehicle repaired or a tyre changed or things like that? Keeping records is pretty crucial in the workplace health and safety space. You can induct your employees, so whether it's a full detailed induction of all the policies and procedures that apply, or you've got a simple induction process, but starting with something is better than nothing. Or there's a Safe Station, which is a comprehensive and customised safety management system, which we will touch on very soon, how Safe Station can actually be implemented into your business. How does a safety management system improve your business? So it keeps things simple and practical. It enhances your people performance and your business productivity. So it gives you time back to focus on what's important to improve your processes. It ensures consistency across the team. So everyone's on the same page, everyone follows the same procedure on how to do something, everyone follows the same steps. It ensures that everyone knows what they're doing. So it provides a reporting and a record keeping system. So as I mentioned before, the vehicle and equipment repairs and maintenance schedules a place to document things and go back if you need to. It improves your team culture. So those signs, symbols, displaying the workplace health and safety policy in your workplace, and it gives you time back to work on your business rather than in the business. So it really pulls everything together and keeps things simple and practical, but enhances your people performance and your business productivity to ensure that things are documented and written down. So how can we actually help? So just a quick little overview about what Safe Station is. It's a fully customised safety management system ready to be implemented into your business after the initial 2-day delivery. So all you need to do is book out the 2 days with us. We'll start from scratch on building a full customised set of policies and procedures, run across risk assessments, and cover off on everything that needs to be included in your safety management system. You can record and you can track your chemical usage. You can also record your vehicle maintenance and repairs through the Safe Station app. We have ongoing support and legislation updates. So if anything does change in the Workplace Health and Safety Act that you need to revisit or update your system to ensure you comply, we'll communicate that with you. The Safe Station app provides a digital solution, so you can induct people on farm, employees, contractors, visitors. You can do it before they arrive on farm or as they're arriving on farm, but it's all at your fingertips, ready to go. It allows employees to complete risk assessments and report incidents and accidents. And you can record, track and schedule maintenance, as I said before, of your vehicles and equipment. So really important in that record keeping space to ensure that you're doing your part on documenting things and ensuring that everything's captured. And I think we're running a little bit ahead of time, but I whizzed through that, and I think we're close to our 40-minute mark, Meg. But is there any questions or anything that's popped up across there that anyone wants to reach out about?
There is actually. So Tess mentioned in the thing she wanted to take away from today was better understanding employees' responsibilities. You mentioned that there is the responsibility is providing information, training and supervision, and then also identifying how to deem them competent and the steps involved in that. But can you talk specifically around mental health? And obviously that ties back to the culture of the entire business, especially the internal culture. So are there any responsibilities at the moment in regards to mental health, and do you have any tips or things that business could implement to, I guess, address the mental health or
The Workplace Health and Safety Act doesn't specifically dedicate a part to mental health that I'm aware of, but it does apply to mental health, and it's extremely important to implement that and ensure that it's covered off in your workplace health and safety system. So as part of the Safe Station delivery, we ensure that it's discussed when we come out and are on farm. So we do have a dedicated set of policies and procedures around dealing with mental health, and that people need to speak out if they need help. So I think it's just about having that open communication and the open culture. Communication was voted as one of the highest things on the culture spectrum. So yeah, it comes down to having the open team culture, the willingness to speak about it. If someone's not coping, they need to let you know. And I think as an employer, you need to watch out for that and understand the symptoms or the indicators that might be there that someone's not up to scratch and maybe they should take a couple of days off or take a break. In the mental health space with Safe Station, we're really wanting to have more of a focus on it and have some more resources around how to improve it in your business and how to ensure you do have the open communication. So that's a work in progress, but nothing we have set in stone yet. So yeah, something we'd really like to see in the near future to ensure that it's at the forefront of everyone's minds. It's obviously very important.
Very good. And I think, Tess, that is also something that was spoken about in both Jay's and Sally's webinar, and also will be spoken about in their podcast episodes. So it is definitely a big focus. One of Jay's suggestions, which is in the podcast, but I'll give you a little insight, was they treat mental health like they treat the take fives in the morning. So instead of saying what are the risks associated with what we're doing right now, and instead of the safety helmet and things like that, they talk about the bullying, harassment, and talk about the fact that it's important to have that, I guess, as Kate just said, like the open communication and like openly discussing how bullying, harassment and isn't accepted, and you need to be in a respectful workplace, and that just opens that communication, I guess.
So we might be able to talk about too a bit more, Meg, on our podcast. We might be able to chat about it and delve into it a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. Rupert sent through a question. Does Safe Station program include risks associated with bullying and harassment, etc.?
We don't have anything specific, Rupert. It's as part of the mental health aspect we'd like to launch and get up and running. That's something I'd like to incorporate into it, but we don't at the moment have any tips for identifying it. It's just more of, it comes back again to that culture and to employees having an awareness of who works for them and how they act and how things are done day in, day out, noticing when they're off or when they might just need a chat. But yeah, something we'd love to incorporate in the future, and I think it definitely needs more of a focus.
Yeah, definitely. What about bullying, harassment policies and procedures? Is that something that's...
Yeah, definitely. We cover off on all of that. So yeah, it's fully documented in the Safe Station system that it's not acceptable, and that, I guess, that also gives you a leg to stand on if further action needs to be taken with employees that aren't following that policy or procedure, whether that needs to be re-brought to their attention, or if you need to dismiss someone, go down that path. It's in your system, you've documented it, it's not tolerated, and now something needs to be done about it.
Yeah. And again, Jay spoke about how to then have that conversation with your staff when that is an issue as well. So do we have any other questions for Kate at all in relation to either Safe Station or the Workplace Health and Safety Act at all? Please send them through. If not, I think we might make an early mark. And if there's any questions that come through either after the this webinar session or through email, we can include that in our podcast discussions. So please feel free, if you have it after this, you have a think and you can think of some more things that you'd like further context on, please let us know. So I think we'll wrap it up there, Kate, if you're okay with that. So thank you, Kate, and everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. We really care about your opinion, so we'll be sending out a post-webinar survey with the webinar recording and would really appreciate you taking the time to complete it. If you have any additional questions for Kate, please don't hesitate to get in contact, as she is very happy to help. Her email is there on the slide. It's kate@chrup.org.au. I would like to remind you all about the podcast series that I was just mentioning, where we'll discuss the main themes discussed today, and Kate will be able to further address any questions from today's webinar. The CHRRUP Reset and Rethink podcast can be found on all podcast streaming platforms, and we'll share the link once it has been released. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll be in touch very soon.